What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It's your boy Adam Perez back once again with a brand new video today as we're here to go ahead and catch up on our live viewer questions from this past weekend on August 7th episode of A-Plus Hero Report. So thank you guys certainly for your patience. But we're definitely going to go ahead and make sure that we tackle all of your remaining questions, guys, from this week before we go ahead and post up our next live viewer questions for this upcoming weekend's episode. So definitely stay tuned to our community tab for that, guys. So thank you very much for certainly joining us here today. But let's go ahead and start getting into some of your guys' questions. Just looking at myself on the camera, I'm just thinking, man, I gotta shave, bro. Like I got the neck beard all growing out and everything. I'm feeling kind of bushy on my face and whatnot. So I think it's time for a trim. I think it's time for a trim soon. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and pull this up. I did get this ready to go ahead and share with you guys. I believe the last person we did a question for was Stuart Husare. So we're gonna jump into Gabriel's. What's up, Gabriel? Gabriel, appreciate you coming through. Saying Spider-Man, the animated series, 1994, is a definitive guide to the first 35 years of Spidey stories I grew up on this show. I still hear that Peter Parker's voice in my head like a second conscious. One of my favorite parts was the way the show did the spider sense, right? Yeah, the colors flash inverted, and there's this crazy, unforgettable sound effect. Watching now as an adult, the censorship was really noticeable. No guns or punches. Morbius fed on plasma, not blood. People were destroyed, not killed. The Venom episode worried me as a kid. How the heck was Spider-Man supposed to beat this guy who was bigger, stronger version of himself, who knows his secret identity? I was legit concerned. I still absolutely love when we saw multiple Spider-Mans in a certain episode, which definitely was the major inspiration for Spider-Man No Way Home, like the three Peter Parker meme. Peter turned into suited Spider-Man to me always felt intense. That what we eventually got in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. And when Harry Osborn became the Green Goblin, this show was my childhood, just like the classic X-Men animated series I watch all the time. You're speaking to the choir, Gabriel. I absolutely love this series. It is one of those things where I kind of almost want to go back and rewatch the show, honestly, that and the original X-Men. And I may go back and check out the X-Men simply because I know Disney Plus has re-released the animated series over there, but in chronological order they've put all the episodes. And considering that X-Men 97 is supposed to be the sequel to that series, I may just go back and do a little bit of a reading myself. But I'm on board with you when it comes to Spider-Man. One of the things that I loved about that series, and I still did, especially just Fox Kids cartoons back in that day. While I will agree, they definitely did censor some things storyline wise, character arcs, issues that they certainly brought to the forefront. They didn't feel like they held back, right? Like I always felt like they treated the kids intelligently, almost for us to, I don't want to say prepare us for the next stages in our lives, but they definitely tackled things in cartoons and animation that I think it was an eye opener and a great lesson learner for kids back in the 90s in that sense. I kind of wish, I kind of miss cartoons kind of like that. But again, I don't really watch cartoons these days, so I don't really know too much about what the current status of cartoons are these days. But I absolutely loved it, Gabriel. And one of the things, too, about the Spider Man series is as a comic book collector fan myself, especially when it comes to X Men and Amazing Spider Man animated series, I was always really intrigued to kind of see them tackle famous sort of storylines. I'm trying to remember if they even dealt with like the Clone Saga in the animated series or not, but I always felt like they really tackled great comic book events and really translated them well into like two parters, three parters, maybe even a little bit longer than that. They just really made every episode or at least the big story arcs feel very epic and a lot of fun. And I can understand your worry and concern when Venom certainly came on board. I think us as a kid, again, I don't think they really pulled any punches. Granted, like you said, there was some censorship in the sense of, punches or maybe not necessarily showing blood, but it was definitely very impactful in other ways also. So yeah, you're definitely speaking to the choir, Gabriel. I'm glad you brought that up. Power Rangers Legacy says silence is golden. The episode of Power Rangers in Space, Silence is Golden, which was the fifth episode of the Ranger arc, is still an excellent and suspenseful episode, and I think one of the best episodes in Power Ranger history. The Psycho Rangers being able to identify the voices of the Space Rangers was so cool that Cassie had the most screen time of the episode. This episode was so clever because Cassie wasn't able to speak at all after learning the Psychos took human form. The Rangers coming up with the perfect plan to get her out of the situation was by having Zane dress up as a clown to distract the psychos. Then the Rangers play a sound recording of theirs, Cassie's voices, so the psychos would leave. Cassie was able to be saved by the Rangers. Even little things like Cassie having allergies in the beginning of the episode was a great touch because Cassie could have easily been captured if she kept sneezing nonstop. I love this episode like this in Power Rangers can be clever while still being easily understood by kids. And for me, Cassie's one of my favorite Pink Rangers. She's definitely up there for me, if not top five, easily like top 10 for sure, but she's always a classic, memorable Pink Ranger for me. And anytime you talk about the Psycho Rangers, I've always thought they've had such a fantastic arc, and I wish that they had been able to be utilized even more than what they did. But you go to show the impact of the Psycho Rangers still being incredibly popular to this day, and still popping up in storylines, especially when it comes to Boom Studios and things like that. So yeah, man, it was a great arc, and I'm glad you wind up bringing up this a fantastic episode for sure. I was always a big fan of Power Rangers in space, Zeo, Time Force, are always some of my favorites. So yeah, I absolutely love that. I'm glad you brought that up too. Let's see here. Who else we got? Adrian Perez. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. With Power Week coming in a few weeks, August 22nd and 28th, what do you hope gets announced and not announced when it comes to Power Rangers? And do you like that we're having a so called Power Week this time, instead of just the National Power Rangers Day, considering how Power Rangers or Hasbro poorly handled National PR Day last year and Fan First Tuesday on last April? Do you think Hasbro will actually do justice when it comes to this new Power Week, or could it be the same thing, like heavy focus on MMPR merchandise? Yeah, Adrian, I was definitely disappointed last year. I think they had some really cool things out of the gate for Power Week, and then unfortunately, just really dropped the ball in other aspects going forward. And it was just like, man, that was just a big letdown to say the least. And so there's a part of me that's kind of hoping that this year they've taken some notes, they've gone back to the drawing board, and maybe we'll get a little bit more of a celebration. I know that's the same week, if I'm not mistaken, that Power Morphicon is certainly going to happen. So I expect a lot more announcements coming out of Power Morphicon than just Hasbro announcing things throughout that week. I can easily see more toy stuff, more Lightning Collection, yeah, maybe new collecting merchandise when it comes to action figures or just toys in general, right? I know they just recently released like the Power Sword and things like that. I don't know if they've ever started pre-orders on like the Dragon Zord Zap, but I can kind of see, if they haven't, I can kind of see them making an announcement for that also. I'm hoping maybe some Boom Studio stuff also. But I expect like television things, anniversary stuff for the 30th anniversary. I do expect that to be at Power Morphicon. Whether or not we get any word on Jonathan Entwistle stuff, that I don't know. I do wonder if they would like most of their attention to be on the upcoming 30th, and if that's what a lot of their attention certainly might be on in regards to really hyping up, Dino Fury coming to an end. They'll probably make an announcement there as to when the second half of season two is probably going to be dropped. So I would definitely look out for some Dino Fury season two news, and then definitely a big reveal and some announcements in regards to what's going to be happening for the 30th anniversary. So I do think kids programming for sure from Hasbro will get announced. New team members will probably be showcased. I'm kind of expecting it to kind of be how we've been used to it before in previous Power Morphicons. But outside of that, probably more Lightning Collection toy stuff and maybe Boom Studios. And look, I just think if it's Power Week, you gotta spread out the goodness, spread out the big announcements instead of just dropping everything in one location. So We'll see. I'm gonna have some hope that Hasbro is gonna do much better this time around because yeah, they definitely did drop the ball last year. Adam Pereira, what's up, Adam? Good to see you, man. Oops, damn it, Adam. Did I fuck this up again? Hold on. Newest first. Okay. Where'd you go? What were some of your favorite story arcs in Power Rangers, and what story do you really hope we get in the remaining half of Dino Fury? One of the arcs I always loved was the Jen and West story arc. I was always really moved about the idea of Jen losing her boyfriend or fiance. I can't remember what he was to her in the very first episode. And then the idea of literally having to deal with his like what his like great great grandson or something like that. Somebody's further down his lineage in West. I always thought that was really fascinating to kind of love somebody and care for somebody, have them killed in front of you, and then literally have to like walk around and live your life with like the ghost of this person. Clearly not necessarily the same person you fell in love with. But I'm sure there's some animosity for sure and some negative feelings about this guy sort of wearing the same face of somebody that you knew and loved that just passed away. That was always moving to me. Um, yeah, there's a ton of them, man. There's a ton of them. I always loved the Andros and Corone or Astronomy, I should say, storyline for sure. Brothers and sisters. I feel like a lot of these were very unique takes on storylines that we hadn't really seen before. The brother sister relationship separated, you know what I mean, kidnapped, if you will, didn't know what happened to her, sort of thing, and then realizing the truth about that. I think even as a kid, I think that was pretty impactful because I don't believe we had seen anything like that. And same thing with Time Force. I mean, there's a whole list of great favorite story arcs that I honestly had from Power Rangers. As far as some stories that I really hope we get into the remaining half, definitely the Amelia stuff. You know, the theories continue to go out there in regards to Void King and Void Queen. Is she their daughter? I would love to see that explored. The Rafcon stuff, clearly with Zato along with Ion. I would certainly like to see that discussed. I know Lord Zed is going to be in there. It sounds very much like he might be kicking off the second half of the season with some sort of impact. I just based off of I think just recent episode descriptions, which we'll certainly go ahead and talk about, I think, on this upcoming episode of Hero Report, maybe in the honorable mentions, but we certainly may talk about some early episode descriptions from Dino Fury Season 2. So definitely look forward to that. But there's so much, man. I mean, Dino Fury for me, I know just because I'm not running my A Plus More Phenomenal channel anymore, you know, don't sleep on the fact that I'm not excited for Dino Fury because I very much am so. I really am looking forward to seeing the remainder of this season. They truly have blown me away. Let's see here. What else we got? One of the most talented men alive. I suck my own balls. Thank you very much for coming through. We all bash Neo Saban era Power Rangers for being incredibly awful during the past 10 years. Do you feel as if Saban and Nickelodeon saw the franchise and thought the show being bad and lazy writing was more important than putting together a solid quality product? And that's using it's only a kid show mentality as an excuse not to put any effort aside from Dino Charge as a whole. However, because Neo Saban era was a huge disgrace, this did allow Hasbro to listen to complaints and give us something significant change in Dino Fear. If Neo Saban was the exact opposite, Hasbro would obviously not be what it is right now. Um, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I guess we have to go through the pains and the struggles of Neo Saban Power Rangers in order to get Hasbro. Because I do agree with you. I do think Hasbro certainly listened to complaints. I think Simon Bennett clearly listened to complaints. I think while we got ourselves a pretty good season in Beast Morphers, not bad. A significant improvement, I think, over the rest of the Neo Saban stuff. Simon Bennett definitely went back to the drawing board a little bit from his directorial work, probably listened to a lot of the complaints and made some course corrections. And I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy Simon Bennett as much as I do and have a lot of faith that when it comes to the 30th anniversary, if Simon Bennett and the crew return, they'll have a good pulse on how to pull off a great 30th anniversary. But you're right. I do think that we had to maybe go through that Neo Saban era before we can get something good. But yeah, I always kind of viewed it as a sense of Saban just maybe in a different place in his life, different priorities, and just maybe saw Power Rangers as an easy cash grab in the sense of, we can put forth the least expected of us and still garner enough views and enough money, toy sales and things like that in order to kind of make some level of income, and you just keep recycling. You know what I mean? So I do think that maybe Saban's passion for Power Rangers maybe have faded, or maybe he just lost that connection with what Power Rangers has, or has been, or a connection with what it is that kids and the audience is certainly looking for after all those years. So I do think for the Neo Saban era, Saban was probably in a completely different mindset than when he was from his first tenure with Power Rangers. Let's see here. We got Jericho Gonzalez. Can I say that to the 10th power of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy is still the best team up we've ever had in Power Rangers history? Not only, God damn it, Adam. I'm so sorry, guys. Let me go ahead and pull this up here again. All right. Not only was it the first official team up in the franchise, it still absolutely amazes me that we had the return of the Space Rangers and the Psycho Rangers. And the Psychos returning was a perfect way to bring back the Space Rangers who showed up rock star style. This team up even gave us the second episode with the Space Rangers, but also the bittersweet death of Kendricks. That was earth shattering to me, I think. I was blown away about the creative choice to do that. I'd never felt like I'd never seen anything like that before. It was mind blowing. I didn't know that they had the balls to kill off a ranger, and for the replacement of her in regards to a Corone, an even better surprise. So I thought it was pretty awesome. However, Kendrick's sacrifice allowed Corone to return and take the mantle of the Pink Galaxy Ranger and redeem herself from her past evil as astronomer. I think Kendrick's. I mean, I think Corone's probably got one of the greatest sort of redemption stories in Power Ranger history. I absolutely love it. Corone returning still gives me chills. We knew at the time that in Power Rangers we would have the main villain from the previous series return as a Ranger. This team up even showed us that the Space Rangers had officially retired from being Rangers after saving the planet, and even stored their morphers on the megaship for safekeeping, allowing them to return if a new threat emerges. Yeah, that's one of my favorite crossovers. Sure, as far as like team ups, is definitely top three. Morgan, what's up, Morgan? My question for this week is: would you think of movies that are entirely filmed via motion capture? And do you also think it's one of the most difficult ways when it comes to creating movies, like Avatar movie, for example? I don't know if it's the most difficult way when it comes to creating movies. I feel like technology these days makes that type of stuff a little bit simpler. I don't want to say it feels troublesome, but it feels, I don't know if cumbersome is the word that I'm looking for. I just feel like as an actor, maybe it's just a lot more work. Whether or not that makes the job more difficult, that I don't know. I feel like it's utilized so much more now in filmmaking, especially just the idea of like the superhero genre these days that has really taken over Hollywood. I feel like they definitely have included a lot more motion capture. So I don't know if it makes it the most difficult way to go ahead and create movies, um, but I don't think it's super easy either. But that's a good question, Morgan. I'll have to dive a little bit more into that. Roberto, since I was 14, I was interested that Divatox and Turbo, her costume was revealing. Same with Necrolite from Mystic Force. Her costume was altered from her Japanese counterpart, which her suit was more like a painted bodysuit. Mystic Force often did close-ups of her face to cover up the Sentai footage of her gosh, and or they used the new original footage in the new suit for PR. Yeah, Diva Talks was certainly something to look at back in the day. I'll have to go back and check out Necroli from Mystic Force again. I might actually let me go ahead and pull up a photo real quick. Necroli. Oh, oh, yeah. I can see. I can probably see why they did that. Yeah. I guess nobody's that used to boobs back in the day. Let's see here. Sexy Mofo says my backup. So did you send one already? Did we already tackle one for you? I don't see you listed on here, Sexy Mofo. So even though it says my backup question, I think this is just your question, although it's super long. Let's see here. The crossover between Dino Thunder and Ninja Storm still amaze balls. The moment when both teams morph was still just unreal. The special effects, VFX of that whole sequence of 30 to 40 seconds was so freaking amazing. I can't get over it. Every time I revisit this, it makes me stoked and overexcited. I love that it was two parts, which is rare in modern day crossovers of Power Rangers. Yeah, I feel like we don't really get those type of crossovers anymore. I kind of wish that we did, but I do appreciate Simon Bennett's method of instead of making necessarily a two-parter, still ending off the episodes in a way that's such a great lead into the next episode. So while it's not part one and part two, there still feels very much like connective tissues these days. At least that's how they pulled it off when it comes. I felt like to Beast Morphers in its final season, and I feel like they'll probably do the same thing here for Dino Fury. And I kind of feel like they've already kind of done that from time to time. You also say it had the best connections of any team up since In Space and Lost Galaxy. We were just talking about the team ups and Wild Force and Time Force. The Dino Rangers have been just seen the full visual history of Power Rangers earlier in their series. Already knew who the Ninja Rangers and Lothar were. Only knock for me was it was obvious Sensei and Lothar in disguise cause of his line. It is with the heavy heart I must give you your new wind morphers. Cam and Haley already knew each other from the online communication, being computer experts for their teams, even keeping each other in contact in case of the worst. This team up was only one that I felt in a long time that really acted as both an episode of the former and current seasons. I remember as a kid, I lost my mind when both teams, the main three Dino Rangers and the three Wind Rangers, both clash. For once during the entire team up, the lead villains were actually in the crossover instead of just being forgotten like previous team ups, where the current the villain wasn't used or mentioned at all. Appreciate that, sexy mofo. Oliver, the mofo queen, another mofo. Are you the same person? How many mofos we got? I feel like I've seen Tarek, the mofo knight, Oliver, the mofo queen, sexy mofo. How many accounts you got, man? I'm about to start doing some sleuthing here and figure this out. Um, let's see here. Oliver, the mofo queen, changing my live viewer question since Adam will be doing a mid video. Night Riders 1980s action series. As I write this, I'm watching the David Hasselhoff Knight Rider series on Netflix. What do you think of this series back in the day, and how do you feel of James Gunn wanting to bring a modern day reboot of Knight Rider, which he did have in 2008, but I heard flopped? Do you think he should bring it back for newer audiences or leave as is? By now, knowing that James Gunn likes to make things more violent and more adultish, would you like to see play a new who would you like to see play a new protagonist, new car you'd like to be used as a new AI powered car? And would you like to see David himself make a cameo? Also, I get the feeling that Power Rangers took inspiration from that series. Michael Knight took talking to Kit via his wrist communicator, just like PR, and then his car driving on its own, which we got in Power Rangers Turbo with Lightning Cruiser and Storm Blaster. I mean, look, I don't know if that was a ripoff of Knight Rider. If anything, it was probably just more of a ripoff of the Sentai, as far as adaptation goes. But for me growing up in the 80s, I did used to love Knight Rider. And Kit was such a badass car. I probably did have a Hot Wheels car of him, to be honest with you guys. Fun times though. And for those of you who don't know, I remember the voice of Kit. And then I remember as I got older and I watched the show, what was it? I watched the show Boy Meets World. I believe it's the teacher of Eric or whoever the main character is. I can't remember the teacher's name, but apparently he was the voice of Kit the entire time, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, that guy sounds like Kit, and then I realized, oh, it's the same it's the same person. But I always loved the show. I would be open to James Gunn tackling it. Honestly, I love his filmmaking and the way he makes television. Peacemaker was incredible. I've loved the films that he's tackled also. So yeah, I can see bringing it back. I know the reboot certainly was a flop in its own right. As far as who I would like to see play the new protagonist, and the new car, listen, I love me a good Camaro. I would love to see, I think a Camaro is easily built for a Knight Rider car. I feel like I've seen the Dodge Challenger a couple use a couple times. If you've got a mean and a real powerful sort of like electric car, maybe like a cool Tesla or something else that looks mean, gets the speed that it needs as far as an electric vehicle goes. One, I think that would be a great promotional tool for switching cars to electric, if you can do that when it comes to Knight Rider. But if not, I always loved the body style of a Camaro, and I almost feel like just the grill of a Camaro is perfect for like the little red laser that would go back and forth sort of thing on the kit car. But yeah, I used to love the show. I used to watch that along with like MacGyver and stuff. But yeah, it was definitely while I was a kid growing up for sure. But definitely some lasting memories. But yeah, I don't know who I would want to have as a new protagonist to go ahead and do that. I don't necessarily feel like they gotta be just like David Hasselhoff, who I wouldn't mind seeing as a brief cameo. I think you can probably, I don't want to say pick up anybody off the street, but I think anybody will certainly work for a Knight Rider series. But yeah, I think other than that, guys, I believe that is all the questions that I had to catch up to. So not as bad as I thought it was certainly going to be. But yeah, I did. Just want to make sure I did update it perfectly. Okay, got to everybody's questions. All right, I guess that will do it for us here, guys. If I did miss your question, I do apologize. But if anything, we certainly will get to it this upcoming weekend. So yeah, guys, definitely join us this upcoming Sunday live at noon Central Time. We've got a ton of great topics to certainly break down and discuss for you guys, and we'll definitely tackle your live viewer questions. But until then, do me a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A plus. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.